much beloved urban expert to ask him a little bit more about how to keep your plants, your trees loved and safe this summer.
Also, that's not it. We've got the elephant that's reinventing early learning. Well, it's just an AI tutor before you start going wild on that one, bringing joy to India's youngest minds. How Appu is making parents a part of the classroom, the tech behind India's big education push.
Starting this financial year, the new tax regime becomes the default one. The government is officially pushing salaried taxpayers into the new tax regime by default. We thought this is just the right time to have this very, very timely discussion. What does the new tax system mean for you, your salaries, savings, and your take-home income?
So let's break it down a little bit. Until now, taxpayers, especially salaried professionals, could choose between the two systems. The old tax regime, packed with deductions, exemptions, it had HRA, LTA, ATC, NPS, insurance as well. But the new tax regime also introduced in 2020 with lower tax rate cuts.
But as we've said, no deductions.
Yeah.
All right, so starting FY 2025-26, the new regime is the default setting. That means unless you actively opt out, your taxes will be calculated under the new system.
Yeah. Now to switch back to the old one, now you will have to sort of file a declaration using the 80IEA form before you actually do your returns. So what's really changed in this new regime? Let's sort of give you an explainer on that. Basic exemption limit, it's now been raised from 3 lakhs to 4 lakhs. So what you earn, if you earn actually 4 lakhs or less, you pay zero tax, no questions asked. Standard deduction, for the first time, the new regime now allows a standard deduction of 75,000 for salaried employees. Earlier, remember, it used to be 50,000 under the old tax regime. But there is also a big plus.
Right, so Section 87A, the rebate, the biggest relief comes right here. So if your income is up to 12 lakh rupees, you get a rebate of 60,000 rupees. What that means is that anyone that's earning 12 lakh or less pays zero tax under the new regime after the standard deduction and the rebate. Now, tax slabs are a little simpler. Here's how the new regime taxes your income. Up to 4 lakhs, nil. 4 lakhs to 8 lakhs, 5%. 8 lakh to 12 lakh, 10%. 12 to 16, 15%. So you can see it's gradually increasing. 16 to 20, you have 20%. And if you're earning between 20 lakhs and 24 lakhs, 25% above that. So above the 24 lakh mark, 30%.
So compare that to the old regime, which had 3 slabs only, remember, didn't have the flexibility of a lesser percentage, for example 5%, 20% and 30%, but you also gave you over 70 types of deductions for lower actually your taxable income all over. But what do you give up under the new tax system really? No exemptions, no deductions.
Right, you cannot claim. So you can't claim house rent allowance, you can't claim leave travel allowance, Section 80C, investments like PPF, ELSS, LIC, Section 80D, health insurance premiums, NPS contributions, interest on home loans for self-occupied houses, savings account interest under ATTTA or ATTTB. None of that exists anymore.
So if you're someone who actively invests to save taxes through PPF, NPS, ELSS, insurance, home loan, EMIs, etc., and you make full use of the exemptions like HRA, ATC, you might still benefit from being under the old regime. But like we said, you have to go back and choose it now if you're salaried employees, because a lot of procedures actually close in. But if you don't have a lot of reductions and you find this paperwork really exhausting, then all you have to do is that you don't want to lock your money as well just for the sake of tax saving. The new regime could actually leave you with more cash in hand.
Right, the government is moving towards a deduction-free, simplified tax system. So what that's going to mean eventually is no paperwork, no proof submission, no messy calculations. Just pay your tax on your gross income and you move on.
Yeah. And with that rebate raised to about 12 lakh, the middle class, especially young salaried professionals, stand to benefit the most. We've discussed it through the last couple of months as well, when the new budget also came in. But this also means that the writing on the wall is that the old tax regime may actually be phased out entirely in the coming years. Is that really going to be good for you? What about people who are still using it? How to make up your mind about which tax regime to pick up? We've got a guest.
Right, so to break this down more with us, we have Drupad Patel. He's the co-founder of Wealtheria. He's a CA and a financial advisor. He's also the co-author of Retire Rich at 42. Let's call him on to the show. Drupad, thank you so much for joining us early in the morning and demystifying this for us.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So we've heard from a lot of people right now. This is a big question. A lot of people going, which one should I choose? And I don't know how to make that choice. That's the question.
Okay.
So, Drupad, give us your guidelines, and obviously this depends on a case-by-case basis. So, broadly lay out your thumb rules for how one should decide.
Okay, in the most of the cases, new regime is the better. But still, you need to do a customized working, particularly for you. If straight away, if I want to answer you, so if your income is more than 10 lakh around, then don't think of old regime at all. Directly go with the new regime, file the return. You don't need even a CA to file this return. This is very, very simple for. Okay, but if your income is more than 12 lakhs, so it is 12 lakh 75,000, because 75,000 is the standard deduction. So actually you have to see if your income is more than 12 lakh 75,000, then this question is coming into picture. Otherwise it's not. Okay, so whoever is 12.75 below, no need to worry, nothing to be done for the salaried people. More than the people has to think about it. And the most of the mistake people are doing, even if it is a new regime and an old regime, people are, the common mistake they are making is that they are changing the job during the year, but they don't intimate to the employer. And now what happens is both of the employer is calculating the tax based on this slab. And either it's a new regime or old regime. If you don't inform, then they will calculate as per the new regime. So that end up paying the lot of tax for the salaried people. A second mistake most of the salaried people are doing is that they are paying a rent more than 50,000, but they are not deducting the TDS for them, and that is also ending up their cancellation of the HRA. So if let us say I am claiming the HRA, I am paying a rent more than 50,000, but if I fail to pay TDS return, I will be slapped with the HRA notice. I will not allow to claim the HRA. So that is the most important things people should remember. And the third most is that many people are doing the same mistake, is they are filing the return, but they don't verify it. And within 30 days now, it will get defective return. So now it will be as good as you have not filed the return.
Okay.
And fourth largest mistake people are doing is there is the advance tax to be paid if your tax is more than 10,000, but they don't pay. So salaried people, companies deducting TDS, but they have other income also, interest income, FD income, dividend income, share market income.
Yeah.
So they don't pay advance tax. So that is one of the most another mistake people are doing.
Yeah. So, Mr. Patel, so clearly what's favorable for the new tax regime is freelancers, gig workers who don't get a lot of claims. For them, it makes sense to actually move to the new tax regime. But at what point, at what salary structure do you think the old tax regime is still favorable?
Old tax regime is favorable only and only if you have HRA claim and ATC claim, ATC and ATD claim. Okay. So let us say you are paying a rent more than 50,000, then only this is going to beneficial you. So I will say if you have a HRA more than 50,000, go think about the calculation also. If you don't have these things, don't think of it. Let us say your income is 20 lakhs. Okay. Now you don't have a HRA. You have HRA hardly 2 lakh rupees or 3 lakh rupees. Don't think of old regime. Go with the new regime.
Can I ask you, Drupad, as a financial advisor, the advice you're giving your clients, aap sabko bata rahe, are you telling everyone that, listen, anyway the new regime will in a few years be the only option?
Yes, I will say yes. This is a new regime is the only good option if you don't have much things to be claimed.
Okay, so really full thumbs up that you're giving, Drupad.
Also eased out a little bit in terms of paperwork. Thank you, Mr. Patel. We'll leave it over there for the moment. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, let's move on.
Right. So from the heat of the taxes all the way to the heat we're all facing right now, it's only mid-April, but India is already in the grip of intense heat wave. Over 20 cities have recorded the temperature above 42 degrees, with Barmer in Rajasthan hitting a scorching 46.4, nearly 7 degrees above the normal and above the average as well that generally April brings along.
Delhi has crossed the 40-degree mark, and the IMD warns that this is just the beginning of a summer that is expected to bring more heatwave days than we're used to. extreme heat affects our health, it affects our cities and our daily lives.
That's right. So to understand how we adapt and build resilience, we'll turn to an environmentalist now. His name is Vimalendu Jha, founder of Switcha. He joins us this morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, how lovely. There is a mud house behind you. You're clearly doing your bit to ensure that heat wave is controlled, at least in your environment. But you know, Mr. Jha, the fundamental question that I have every time heat wave comes in and every time we come to this part of the year is that so much of importance is paid on, okay, drink water, ensure you are safe, etc. But no fundamental solutions on how cities can do better. No fundamental solutions on what is it that the cities are not making for. How is it that our metros, if you could give me to start with 3 things that the metros are not doing and should be doing to avoid these intense extreme summer.
See, intense heat wave cannot be fought by drinking more water or staying indoor. As you know, we need to understand that heat waves are not just events. These are phenomena, and these are phenomena, a lot of times it's attributed to so-called global warming, and we try to attribute and blame global climate change as the reason for local heat wave conditions. But reality is the reason why certain pockets in certain urban areas, more to say, have these heat wave conditions are because of local conditions. And therefore, and you know, the problem is that we wake up to heat wave situation every year after year, because we only treat this as an event and not as a phenomena. Because, you know, it's been recurring, it's been happening every year, and we think that, oh, well, this year we've crossed a particular threshold, or in April we are 5 degrees more than what perhaps the normal trend should be. So the problem is in our understanding of the crisis. We look at one climate event as an isolated climate event. We still, as a policy, as a country, as a society, as a government, only looking at this year's 2025 heat wave as if there's not going to be any heat wave in 2026. And therefore, if we are actually looking at how do we save ourselves, we can perhaps, the rich can, you know, work from home and perhaps put 20 ACs in their living room. But reality is that the masses will have to deal with this, and it has implications on public health, on public earning, and mostly the crowd, people who actually work in the open, who do not have access to energy and cooling and perhaps also access to good health infrastructure that comes with heat wave. Right. So last year we saw many people actually getting admitted. There's mortality and morbidity associated with this, but in the name of heat action plan, we only have cut, copy, paste heat action plan for various towns. You know, it cannot. We cannot have one heat action plan for the entire country, because we have different geographies, different climates, and different ways, ideally, to deal with heat wave conditions.
Can we ask you, Vimalendu, to put together a heat plan, action plan of your own, almost, for us right now, for a city like Delhi?
Yeah.
And in that sense, point out the loopholes in previous action plans.
So we will have to look at short term and then intermediary, which is mid-term, medium-term strategies, and then long-term. Of course, if you look at short term, which perhaps the band-aid that we can use right now, because there's only that much that you can do in the month of April when the heat wave is already begun. You can't bring in systemic changes in a day or two or a week or a month in that sense. And that's only caution, precaution, some sort of an infrastructure emergency infrastructure that we need to build in public spaces, also in our hospitals and other things. So right now, this year, perhaps we will have to look at when people are going to face with heat wave conditions, and mostly the poorest of the poor, what is the public health infrastructure that we build? So maybe perhaps, create shades, create water vending machines, look at some sort of a, off day and compensation, monetary compensation for daily wage workers who should not be forced to work at 48 degrees and 50 degrees. And also in the hospitals, there needs to be special ICUs and wards for heat wave, that perhaps we try to do some bit of that, last year as well. In long term, we need to understand how are we urbanizing? How are cities like Delhi urbanizing? Do we need more and more roads and broader roads that we keep celebrating, or we actually need more and more green cover? The entire heat island that we are actually creating and celebrating that, unfortunately, the kind of urbanization, the fanciness of our of our broad roads. You and I can reach Dehradun in perhaps 3 hours and don't realize that we've actually sacrificed lakhs and lakhs of trees to really become faster. But becoming faster and staying stupid is something that cannot really work when we look at medium-term and long-term heat wave situations. And that's exactly, we need to understand that infrastructure is not just cement. Infrastructure is also nature, is also climate-friendly and sustainable infrastructure, and the pathway to development and growth that we need to actually adapt as a government.
Mr. Jha, all very relevant points that you're bringing up. But my question is a little more fundamental here. Are we to understand that Indian metro cities are fundamentally flawed in the way they are designed to tackle with extreme climate conditions? Are we looking at that?
Absolutely, because when we look at climate conditions and we look at cities, then you have to look at, of course, land, is what we look at cities as. And land is something which is not the only thing. We will have to look at forest. You look at old cities when they were designed 500 years ago, or perhaps a couple of or 1,000 years ago, or for that matter, Indus Valley civilization. When we look at one of the best urbanization models that we actually have of city planning, that's where you look at your waterways, that's where you look at your wasteways, that's where you actually look at how your proximity and density of forest per capita in that sense. Right now, when we are looking at our planning, of course, we can't stop migration, we can't stop cities to grow, but how do you want them to grow is extremely important. If there is decrease in green cover in the heart of Delhi, there's been many documents that says that we do not need more offices and more parking lots and more malls. We have had enough. And I think Delhi needs to degrow, ungrow, or slow grow, as an example. And if we really want yet another stadium and yet another mall, perhaps it should be the smaller towns and other areas. So by design, the way we are looking at faster mobility and infrastructure and energy sufficiency has become a way of life, almost like a standard of living, but we don't realize that energy sufficiency or overconsumption of energy and over access to private mobility, all of that actually has a long-term impact, and by design we are to be doomed.
Can I ask you, this is an entire issue that can sometimes leave the individual feeling helpless, because we say that this isn't an individual issue. Climate change is not something individuals can do very much about. It's a collective issue. But if anyone is watching this today feeling a little hopeless, what would you say to them in terms of individual action? Is there things that we can demand of?
See, usually I don't write prescriptions for a private solution for public problems, right? As in, why should there be a private solution to a public problem? As in, you and I perhaps can afford to have a private solution, and therefore it will be unfair to really limit this discussion into what you and I could do. Indeed, each one of us will have to look at our own individual footprint, and more so the middle class and upper middle class and the higher classes. We will have to really look at what's my personal footprint and what do I need to do in my private life that can perhaps cumulatively have a bigger impact in overall climate footprint. Indeed, there's caution, there's care, there's your individual responsibility and citizenship, all of those things that we can do, but there's very little that this earth doesn't have a remote control. You can't really reduce the temperature. You and I, it is doing what it's doing. You and I can reduce the temperature or moderate the temperature of our private room, but not of our public spaces, our playgrounds, our forests, our planet. And therefore, we will have to aggressively beat the climate change danger and the risk that we all are running, and we'll have to look at individual solutions indeed, but individual solutions together to combat this public challenge called local climate change.
Yeah. Mr. Jha, we wish we had more time to sort of ask you more questions, everything. Okay, I'm told we do have time. So can I ask you this? You said we're headed towards doomsday. Are you saying, is it too late already for cities like Delhi, for cities like Mumbai, for our urban centers, or do you think it can still be tackled? I'm saying this because we are in a city which is the capital of the country, terrible air during the winter, terrible heat during the summer. We seems to be heading towards, I don't know, should we call it doomsday in your language, in all of the seasons. Is there still something that can be done?
It can be. There is a solution, but solution will not appear on its own naturally, right? As in at the end of the day, you and I, all of us work really, really hard to bring in the AQI to 900 levels. It doesn't happen on its own. We all pollute. If Yamuna's water is E class, which means it's not even fit for animal bathing, it's because you and I really work hard to bring Yamuna to that pathetic state. So every indicator of environment that we're talking about, the local environment, be it our forest cover, be it our air quality, be it our mountains of garbage that we have created, all of that cumulatively creates a system which is counterproductive to overall public health. Because we need to understand that the reason why we need to have conversations about environment is not just for our romance of a great documentary that it can put forth. It is because it has linkages with public health. And when we talk about public health, we're not talking about a Medanta public health. We're talking about the government hospital infrastructure. We're talking about daily wage workers, access to medical care, and their ability to perform and their work. When we talk about morbidity is a very, very big thing, but in India we don't discuss morbidity as much. We don't even discuss mortality for that matter. The Parliament of India didn't even accept that there are deaths because of pollution in that sense, because it clearly denies that people die because of air pollution, because the death certificate doesn't say that died because of bad air in that sense. So we can reverse this in many, many ways if there is political will and political thinking that enough of our infrastructure development. When we look at infrastructure, we will have to look at our natural heritage, look at our floodplains, look at our water management. Imagine if groundwater has already run out, as per Niti Aayog's own admission, then why are we not doing anything about it? As in, I haven't seen a plan in the last 10 years, or for that matter, in the last 20 years, in looking at, if Delhi's air has become pathetic, or Delhi's water has actually disappeared or has become toxic. This is the roadmap for the next 5 years, for the next 7 years. Similarly, for the heat wave as well. We had the heat wave conditions last year and last year. We've had flood. By the way, right now you and I are talking about heat wave for the month of April and May, and you and I will actually talk about extreme flooding, like what happened 2 years ago when the Supreme Court of our country was actually inundated by flood water. So we'll have to have a holistic plan rather than piecemeal plan to our climate and to our public environment.
You're clearly saying this is the climate crisis. There is so much that you and I as individuals can do. Vimrendu can build a bud house. I can see if I can use more public transport and try out other things. But till the time there is a policy change on this, and one that is very stringent, we are headed into this year after year. We'd have to leave it there, Mr. Jha. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to shift from this, but we're going to stay with the effects of soaring temperature. We wanted to tell you a little bit about how you could protect yourself, your home, the people around you. So let's start first with the largest organ, our skin. Protecting your skin isn't just about sunscreen. To guide us through essential skincare during this heat wave, we thought we'd have a dermatologist. So this is Dr. Geeta Mehra, Puzzle Boy, with expert advice. Take a look.
Sunscreens should be used in conjunction with other sun safety measures such as seeking shade, avoiding the sun between 10 and 4, wearing protective gear like umbrellas, caps, sunglasses, full sleeves cotton and linen clothes, adding oral sunscreen such as Polypodium locomotis and oral antioxidants like beta-carotene, glutathione, vitamin C, zinc, superoxide dismutase. They help combat the stress of oxidative damage caused by the sun. We would generally recommend an SPF of 30 plus for regular use and 50 plus for prolonged sun exposure. SPF or sun protection factor is crucial for protecting you from the harmful rays of the sun, reducing the risk of sunburn, skin cancer and premature aging. What does SPF mean? It means how long a sunscreen will delay a sunburn compared to unprotected skin which has no sunscreen on it. While SPF primarily measures or protects you from the UVB rays, broad spectrum protects you from the UVA rays also. Use a sunscreen which is a mineral makeup base with zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, and sunscreen should be applied 20 minutes before you leave the house, and you should reapply them every 2 hours. Yes, hot humid weather can increase oil production in the skin, and this is one of the major causes for acne. It can also cause clogged pores, So this is the time for you to change your skincare routine. Please add agents like glycolic acid, niacinamide, retinol to your skincare routine to avoid acne. Benzoyl peroxide is a great product to be used to keep the skin clean and avoid acne. A summer skincare routine. Keep the skin hydrated and drink lots and lots of water. Add foods like watermelon and cucumber for extra hydration. It's time to change your skincare routine and add glycolic acid or niacinamide or lactic acid containing face wash, a light non-comedogenic moisturizer with hyaluronic acid or glycerine, a sunscreen of SPF 50 or 30 plus with a water-based or a mousse-based technology, vitamin C to combat the effects of oxidative stress. It's a good time to start your retinol in your night routine, and please start the oral antioxidants that I mentioned before. And another thing, avoid over-the-counter products, especially to treat dandruff, rosacea, fungal infections, and do avoid steroid creams that is very commonly prescribed.
And it's not just your skin, this kind of heat can be brutal to plants too. How do you protect your balcony gardens and your home plants in this weather? Well, I clearly need a lot of tips. I end up killing a lot of my plants. So we thought we'll dial up people, Baba, to understand India's tree man's view on how to ensure that you're taking care of your plants in the summer. Remember, they give back so much. Take a look.
Two things that you should do to protect and save your plants from excess heat is keep them away from the walls, keep them away from concrete structures. If they are kept on the balcony or on the rooftop right next to the wall, just keep a gap of 1 feet away, because the heat during the day, when the heat radiates in the evening or at night, it kills the plant. It really traumatizes the plant, even during afternoons. And whenever you water the plant, please do it early morning, and the best time is late evenings. If you can water the plants, just avoid watering the plant during afternoons, because it's so hot and the water is also literally boiling, so it harms the root, it harms the plants. So if you have to do watering, do it late evenings. Keep it away, a little away from the concrete structures, because they also radiate heat, right? And as much mulching as possible. Now, what is mulching? Mulching is basically covering the soil. You can cover it with coconut shells, coconut, the fiber, or with any kind of, even you've seen many people just covering it with a light muslin cloth. You can cover your, especially the very sensitive plants like tulsi and your flowering plants. So if you think that the heat is direct in the afternoon, it is very strong, you can put a small muslin cloth on top of the plants. But the best way is to keep it in partial shade. Keep your plants in partial shade. Plan it in such a way. You can have a green cloth on top. You can get from the nursery, from any of the gardening stores, you can buy that. So partial, the light is okay, light for photosynthesis, for the making of the food by the leaves, they need light. But I think partial shade, if you can give them through a green cloth or nursery cloth, or in any which way you can. And last but not the least, which we recommend, Give Me Trees Trust, People Baba, we have a very strong a pitch for this we make, is that put the plants together. Don't put plants in isolation. They are gregarious, they are social beings, they are just like us, so they like company. So put the roots together, put the plants together. They give shade to each other, they give company to each other. A lot of moisture exchanges, nutrition exchange takes place when the plants are kept in a cluster, or they are kept together, or they are grown together. Okay, so happy summers to you and happy gardening to you.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that plants flourish better when they are together. I also didn't know about this thing of not keeping them next to the concrete and covering them in coconut shells. Such lovely tips over there.
I loved how he said happy summer. We've had, a discussion about the trickier parts of it. But yeah, we do also want to wish you, our TVC family, a happy summer. We're going to head into a quick break. On the other side, we are switching focus entirely. We're meeting an elephant that is reinventing early learning. What do we mean? It's an AI tutor created just to bring joy for India's youngest minds. Appu is making parents part of the classroom. We'll tell you how in just a little while.
What smart is?
Hello, my name is Todd Inman. We had an NTSB GO team that arrived in Albany, New York last night. We're beginning the investigation into a fatal crash involving a Mitsubishi MU-2B40 aircraft in the area. Before I go any further, on behalf of everyone at the NTSB, I want to express our sincere condolences for the families, the survivors of the families, and everyone who knew someone that perished in this accident. We're truly sorry. On April 12th, at approximately 12:06 Eastern Daylight Time, a Mitsubishi MU-2B40 with tail number November 635 Tango Alpha crashed 10 miles from the Columbia County Airport. This occurred near State Route 23 and Two Town Road. The flight was being operated as a Part 91 flight. The aircraft had departed Westchester County Airport, airport code HPN, when a crash occurred in what we would call a flat agricultural field. The NTSB does not release information in regard to anyone who may be a victim of any of these accidents. That will be solely left to the county coroner's office. We will not release that in any way, shape, or form. So the question was again about the number of people or fatalities. I can tell you that we have verified there were 6 people on board. I can say that all 6 were removed from the scene. We have no one hospitalized at this time. Any other questions regarding that, I would, again, local authorities and the county coroner. The scene is approximately 100 yards in length, with the aircraft being compressed, buckled, and embedded into the terrain. Now we have recovered and obtained at this point a video of the actual crash in the final seconds. The video, as we've seen in just in the last hour, we were able to retain a higher quality version, appears to show that the aircraft was intact and crashed at a high rate of descent into the ground.
During the approach at Columbia County Airport, the pilot reported a missed approach. He requested vectors for another approach, and as he is being vectored, the radar indicated a low altitude alert. The ATC controller attempted to relay this low altitude alert to the pilot and also tried to contact him 3 additional times. Unfortunately, he was unsuccessful. There was no response from the pilot and there was no distress call.
I can tell you that this plane was sold approximately a year ago, and based upon the information and the visuals we've seen, it had a very upgraded what we call avionics package. Compared to the original manufacturer, the avionics package.
All right, let's take you now to our person of interest. India's early learning story is what we're focusing on today because it's getting a tech boost from a cheerful pink-eared AI elephant called Appu, created by Rocket Learning with Google.org. Appu is an AI tutor for children aged 3 to 6. It uses songs, stories, conversations to build school readiness and confidence among little kids. It's already reached millions of kids and Anganwadi workers across India. The impact is already showing.
So from helping parents engage better to unlocking shy children's potential, Appu is bridging the gaps between tech, play and human care. We speak to the team behind Appu as well, and let's welcome them on the program. Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My first question really is that what sparked the idea for Appu, and how does it fit into Rocket Learning's big dream for early childhood?
Absolutely. So, Rocket Learning, we're a non-profit focused on early childhood education. So our focus is helping 0 to 6-year-olds get the best start to life, right, which includes getting ready for school in grade 1, but also building their brains and bodies for the long term. About 85% of brain development happens by the age of 6. And so whatever stimulation children get in real life at this age is super critical in improving their IQ, EQ and social abilities as well. Right. So a lot of predictive life successes through this. The idea for Appu was sparked by the need to be able to support parents and teachers. So the caregivers, the caring caregivers that are in every child's life, and help them get the information to be able to support the child with learning and to be able to help the child practice simple activities and conversation and stimulation, right? Appu is a AI bot, that AI tutor that is able to interact with children and parents and able to help them do some activities, hold conversations with them, do rhymes, songs, stories, social emotional activities and other things. Now these activities are quite natural already for people who are in the higher income brackets because they have a lot of this information and they have a lot of social pressure also to do this in some sense. But in communities where traditionally there's not been so much knowledge, using technology is a big enabler. And today, close to 80% households, even in rural India, have smartphones. And that's why, generative AI, which is all the buzz across the world, should be used now for the bottom of the pyramid as well, which needs it most. And that's been our intention with Appu.
How does Appu actually work though? Tell us, Aziz, like the tailoring that you're talking about, for each child, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Appu's catered to children between the ages of 3 to 6 for now. And it's basically a web app. You get a link on WhatsApp, you click the link, a screen opens up where the Appu elephant mascot is there, right? And there's this friendly, fun elephant which interacts with the parents and children. And for example, may ask them about which particular alphabet would you like to learn. And if the child says, or maybe it would ask them, what's your favorite animal? And if the child says machli, then it would, create a lesson around the machli. And says, okay, what does machli begin with? Mer, can you say mer multiple times? Then can you write mer? So there'll be a whole module that will develop based on the child and the parents' interests. It will also understand where the child is struggling. So many children, for example, may be able to say the alphabet mer, but when you ask them, what does magarmach start with? They may not then be able to identify that it starts with mer. And so it actually creates and suggests videos and other activities that can be done in real life. Based on the level of the child, it stores that data, suggests personalized activities, and is able to conduct them in some ways as well with the child. And so that's where the whole sort of personalization comes in. This is all in local language, so it'll be in Hindi, Marathi, etc., and very conversational, right? So it mimics the tradition of oral storytelling and conversation, and using that conversation in a personalized way, it's able to engage with the children and pair-giver combination.
Right. So, Aziz, your claims are that 70% of 3 to 6-year-olds hit development milestones in just 6 months with your app. That's quite wonderful. But how are you tracking success rates in kids? Because each child is different. They hit milestones differently. There's a gender gap. It's got to do with genetics as well. So, how are you tracking or measuring success?
Correct. So I think, there are two types of major milestones that I'll boil this down into. One is sort of, what do children at this age need to learn? Because often we feel that, at this age, there's nothing to learn and it's time for play, which is true, but play is teaching them essential things. So firstly, it teaches cognitive growth. Later, and those are sort of classic skills that we all sort of care a lot about. Letter recognition, number recognition, problem solving, memory building, things like working memory. If you're given a series of tasks, can you take the output of one task, remember it, and use that as an input into a task later on, right? So essential skills that are required for any sort of problem solving as an adult as well, on the cognitive side. On the other side, there's a lot of social confidence, self-esteem, teamwork, self-regulation, right? So are you able to introduce yourself? Are you able to greet others? Can you express your emotions? If somebody is mean to you, are you able to deal with that? So a lot of these core things that are about behavioral management, right, as well. So those are two things on the child side. But on the caregiver side, I think one of the essential things is that can we actively involve parents, grandparents, siblings in this sort of play-based learning at home, right? And that's always been a challenge. I think often parents struggle in this age group to think through what is the best way to support the child at the level that they are at. Right, and this actually helps parents spend more time and more quality time with children, improves their relationship with the children as well, right? So cognitive and social growth for the child, and quality involvement and loving involvement for the caregiver at home. And those are the metrics that we track through pretty sophisticated measurement techniques using people on the ground as well as technology.
So Aziz, tell us, one set of numbers you shared with us, the 3.5 million kids, 230,000 Anganwadi workers have all been impacted by Appu and Appu's work. We just want to ask you, what are some of the stories you're getting in from the field? So tell us about, I think it's the northern belt where you've had a lot of impact. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think, stories from the field are what motivate us, right? And so the macro statistics may be that 70% of children who undergo this program are sort of, hit their goals as opposed to 50% otherwise. But it's when you actually see somebody, benefiting from it tangibly is when it comes home. So recently I went on a field visit to Uttar Pradesh, very rural area. There was this shy 4-year-old girl, Priya. And we were told that before that Priya was quite underconfident, very shy, didn't used to talk much in school. You picture a classroom and she was the child who would sort of sit at the back and just keep to herself and not really engage in anything that the class was doing. And then I think after sort of Appu came on the scene and the mom sat with Priya and they both sort of started doing these activities and conversations with Appu. I think she became very confident because there was nobody to reject her, there was nobody to judge her, and she was able to do conversations at her own pace in the way that she liked, and she got a really caring, loving response back from the bot, right, which is how it's designed. Then she became more confident in talking, and that spilled over into conversations with the family, into conversations with the other children in the Anganwadi center, and everybody started noticing how this shy little kid is just now becoming sort of much more active and sort of the life of the class in some sense. And so I think that way is even for the parent often. Shy kids who are withdrawn and may not be engaging much are sort of relegated to saying that they are not very bright and they can't do much, right? And so Priya's mom's hopes for her really became much bigger at the end, because now she saw this vivacious child doing so much and started dreaming that later on then my child should go to the best sort of education and should really make an amazing life for herself. And that whole confidence even in the mother and the teacher came in as well, right? So I think those are the stories of what can be done if we use technology thoughtfully, combine it with community methods that are already at play, right? And just give access of some of these marvels of Gen AI and so on to communities to use as they would like to use them best.
Right. I think, Aziz, the best part about this AI tool is, and when I see AI adoption actually help are the ones who are most remote, I think that's when it needs to be celebrated the most as well. But talking about expansion there, you have expanded to Punjab, even South India, all of that sounds very exciting. But what's been the toughest part of actually scaling an app like this in remote corners?
Yes, so typically one of the biggest issues in sort of scaling up any sort of learning, teaching, other programs has been the massive linguistic diversity in India today, right? So we have 22 official languages in some sense and many more dialects, right? And so typically we've been doing a lot of work in the Hindi heartland. But actually the advantages of the AI revolution in the last 3-4 years is that actually if you train the AI in Hindi, it's relatively little effort to also get that AI tutor to also start coaching in Marathi, to have it start coaching in Punjabi, in Kannada, in Telugu and other languages like that, right? So that becomes much more feasible and easy for the users to learn in local languages, which is the best at that age. However, of course, there are still challenges related to that. Currently, AI models are better in English, best in English, reasonably good in Hindi, still weaker in other languages. But a lot of work is being done, by the Indian government through the Indian AI mission, as well as a lot of the large private providers, such as Gemini has done a lot of work in trying to sort of make this happen in different languages, and so it's getting better every day. And soon we anticipate that you can have this sort of product in 20 languages, 100 dialects, and it can work really well for children in every remote part of the country.
What's the biggest roadblock to equitable early education? Because that's right at the crux of what we're discussing, right? Education for all. How is Appu changing that?
Yeah, so I think big roadblock is that at the high end sort of income bracket in India, we are sending our children to highly engaged sort of preschools, and as parents, I have a 1-year-old daughter of my own. We are spending hours, in the evenings, in the mornings, on weekends, with children, doing activities, doing stimulation, tracking their milestones, getting maybe over worried at every small thing, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if you look at the bottom 50% from an income perspective, right? I think this awareness that at the early age, parents really need to focus on learning for children through play and activity and games, and that this will change their lives. That awareness is not there. Even if the awareness is there, what exactly to do at what different point of time, that knowledge is not there. At sort of 4 years of age, should my child be able to recite 1 to 30, or is it better for the child to be able to mark objects in increasing order of size, right? What is the right thing to do? So I think that is a huge challenge to equitable early education, and Appu is working as an AI tutor, helping parents as well as Anganwadi workers, which is the world's largest preschool system in that sense, and is helping both of these groups engage with children better, and it's being able to interact directly with children under the supervision of parents and teachers to allow them to speak, to allow them to practice, and to allow them to have fun while learning. So that's how we're trying to solve the challenge of that inequity, which begins right in the very, very early years.
Right. So, Aziz, let's shift focus to edtech sector on the whole now. There has been a lot of push that has come in from the government. There are slogans like Poshan Bhi, Padhai Bhi that the Prime Minister himself makes. How are these working in? Because we've seen the education sector also go through its own blip.
Yeah, so I think actually Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi is the sort of umbrella initiative, scheme of the government of India for early learning for children in the 0 to 6 age group. I think all credit goes to the government of India and all state governments who are really pursuing this in mission mode and have taken on board the thinking that nutrition and stimulation before the age of 6 is what will probably create the next generation of India's kids, right? In the next 25 years.
Yeah.
So this is the umbrella mission, and we've been supporting training and support of daycare workers and others in this way. But how this I think it's part of it's a part of this mission that we've put together Appu, right? So the question is, how can Appu support this sort of scheme? And we've released it as an open source technology that can be used by anyone who wants to use it, and that can really help daycare workers and parents pro bono from our perspective. And we hope that this can fuel what the government is looking at in terms of Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi for every child in the country.
Aziz, what about the debate around digital classrooms though? Because we are essentially giving young kids tablets and devices, and you're also seeing countries across the world, some of them introduce policies where they're pulling back. So they're saying no phones, or they're saying no social media at a certain age, no screens. So do you think India actually has lessons to take from that? How do you see it?
Absolutely. So I think the question is maintaining a good balance, right? How do you do that? The answer is not in saying that you will not use technology as an aid at all. The answer is also not saying that technology will replace the adult teacher, the caregiver, and so on, right? So neither of those solutions can be correct for a country like India. We know that in-person interactions with community, adult, teachers, those are important. And those are critical actually. But can technology help those caring adults in a child's life do a better job with a child, right? Which they desperately want to do. So I think that's where technology comes in, and where technology is directly being used by children also, even under supervision. We ensure that there's not more than 5 to 10 minutes of screen time per day. Right, so that we ensure that the time that goes on watching YouTube videos, when the parent gets tired and gives the phone to the child to see YouTube videos, that is actually being replaced by 10 minutes of learning, play-based activity. This is voice-based learning, so it's part of India's oral tradition as well, and family-led engagement is happening here. So I think the question is that not that should we be a Sweden which has outlawed all technology, because they're saying that we have all these teachers who are spending all the time here. But the question is more that how can we support and augment the teachers and parents who are here in India, who may have limitations but are really wanting to help kids learn, and do it in a way, within 10 minutes, using all this, guardrails and constraints to make sure technology is really aiding the human who is leading all of this.
All right, Aziz, we leave it there for the moment. You're right. India is a complex country and we need very nuanced solutions, not one size fit all when it comes to it all. But thank you so much for joining us. With that, let's quickly move on to our next segment. This is how the markets are going to open this morning with Money Control. All right, this is a special segment powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's look at markets. Now, GIFT Nifty is indicating a positive opening for the Indian stock markets. Asian stock markets opened higher in Tuesday morning trade, led by gains by Japanese stocks. US stock markets closed higher as well on Monday as White House exempt smartphones and computers from new tariffs. Crude oil prices, meanwhile, rise in Tuesday morning trade on optimism about demand.
Okay, let's take a look at a sector in particular. India's value retailers are coming of age. They have a strong focus on expanding their presence in Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets. There is huge untapped demand that is present beyond metro markets. Strategic investments made in digital commerce, back-end infrastructure, and in creating larger format stores are setting the stage for the next leg of growth. Remember, you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about the retailing and e-commerce sector, various other actionable insights on the markets. It's the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights that you're ever going to need, brought to you by Money Control. And we're heading into a break, but on the other side, we're heading into space with women who've done it, and we'll tell you how in just a little while from now. Stay with us. We're going to come back with our bulletin ending video.
Hello, my name is Todd Inman. We had an NTSB GO team that arrived in Albany, New York last night. We're beginning the investigation into a fatal crash involving a Mitsubishi MU-2B40 aircraft in the area. Now, before I go any further, on behalf of everyone at the NTSB, I want to express our sincere condolences for the families, the survivors of the families, and everyone who knew someone that perished in this accident. We're truly sorry. On April 12th, at approximately 12:06 Eastern Daylight Time, a Mitsubishi MU-2B40 with tail number November 635 Tango Alpha crashed 10 miles from the Columbia County Airport. This occurred near State Route 23 and Two Town Road. The flight was being operated as a Part 91 flight. The aircraft had departed Westchester County Airport, airport code HPN, when a crash occurred in what we would call a flat agricultural field. The NTSB does not release information in regard to anyone who may be a victim.
All right, welcome back. It's time to take you through our video of the day, and this is the video that everybody got hooked on to. First, it was 5 men in space, but now 5 women who went on a bit of a space tour. Well, that's what happened. Those are the pictures on your screen. Let's take, that's Mr. Jeff Bezos looking at how it actually turned out. Oprah as well.
Because of Gail. Because of Gail who's on there. It was just 11 minutes long. So they went out there, they were up there for 11 minutes and they came back down. And it's Katy Perry, it's Gail King. You can see that is Jeff Bezos' partner. There are also others on board, I believe experts in different areas who also went on board, and we haven't been talking as much about them as we should, but that's Gail King kissing the ground. They all actually rung a bell. It's part of the ceremonies. It's really
Same
cool
thing
footage.
happened when earlier flight was on,
Really cool footage.
Did
They're
I
all
just
giving
call
interviews.
it a flight? Because that's what
It
it
is a
seems
flight
like.
in a sense.
It's a flight into space.
Yeah.
It's not a rocket launch anymore. Well, we leave you with those pictures. If you want to get more of that, you can log into news18.com. For now, we're going to say goodbye. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Much wind out here today. A beautiful day for a launch and landing.
What smart is it?
Hello, my name is Todd Inman. We had an NTSB GO team that arrived in Albany, New York last night. We're beginning the investigation into a fatal crash involving a Mitsubishi MU-2B40 aircraft in the area. Now, before I go any further, on behalf of everyone at the NTSB, I want to express our sincere condolences for the families, the survivors of the families, and everyone who knew someone that perished in this accident. We're truly sorry. On April 12th, at approximately 12:06 Eastern Daylight Time, a Mitsubishi MU-2B40 with tail number November 635 Tango Alpha crashed 10 miles from the Columbia County Airport. This occurred near State Route 23 and Two Town Road. The flight was being operated as a Part 91 flight. The aircraft had departed Westchester County Airport, airport code HPN, when a crash occurred in what we would call a flat agricultural field. The NTSB does not release information in regard to anyone who may be a victim of any of these accidents. That will be solely left to the county coroner's office. We will not release that in any way, shape, or form. So the question was again about the number of people or fatalities.